am LaMarsha Lewis. Let's talk. Today's commentary will be about what's currently going on in our world. We're still discussing a week later the insurrection that took place at our nation's capital in Washington, D.C. at the incitement of the President Donald J. Trump. The House is currently on the floor. Many members of the House are giving their statement, many speaking out to impeach Donald J. Trump. And also you have the opposing side, the Republicans. Many of them are basically continuing to be willfully an accomplice to Trump. They're willingly abetting the insurrection, the sedition that took place at our nation's capital, where all of them was there. They experienced it in real time, but yet they are wanting to do what they have done the past 4 years, turn and look the other way. Let this man get off with 5 people that died on January the 6th, 2021. A police officer, Brian Sitnick, died. A lady by the name of Ashley Babbitt, who was an advocate for Trump. She was a previous military person. She had military experience. She died this past Saturday. We learned another police officer took his own life from what transpired, the insurrection incited by Trump. And now we are 7 days away from the inauguration for President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. We will be having their inauguration next Wednesday, January the 20th. And so what the Republican Party Congress senators are saying, well, we don't want to take away from Biden. We are a week away. We can't have an impeachment. It's too early. There's been no this. It's been no that. There's been no hearing. But not a one of them had a problem or issue when they did the sham of the nomination for Amy Coney Barrett to get on the Supreme Court. You didn't hear no, well, we can't this, we can't that. In fact, they fought against the Democrats when they were holding them accountable, when it has been stated that if there is a nomination to come up for a Supreme Court justice in the last term of a presidential election, that the next person that actually won the presidency would be the person to do the nomination. But no, because they had their own agenda, they was trying to get as many conservatives on the bench. Then they got this now talking point, trying to deflect against Biden, where you trying to pack the court. Well, hell, y'all done packed the court with 3. Y'all put 3. Trump put 3 Supreme Court justices on the bench, but the Republicans want to use pack the court. Pure hypocrisy. They have their own propaganda, and they don't have any morals and integrity. The nation's capital was breached. That had not happened since 1814. Over 200 years ago, the nation's capital was breached. There was an insurrection. There was a sedition. It was incited. It was carried out by the command, the orchestration of Trump. So yes, he must be impeached. But not only should he be impeached, he must be removed. We, the American people, should not let him walk out on January the 20th, as previous predecessors have done, when their terms come to an end and there's a new president that's taking place, and where he gets to walk out with a pension, he gets to have a staff, he gets to have office space, he gets to travel, continue to travel this world, all over the countries, different various countries, and we pay for it, and you put a breach to our nation's capital. Accountability. There's no ands, ifs, buts. accountability must be given to Donald J. Trump. We have three branches of government. We have legislators, they make the law. That's the Congress, that's the Senate, that's the House of Representatives. We have the executive, which is the president, the vice president, his cabinet. They carry out the laws. Then there's the judicial system, which interprets the law. That's the Supreme Court and other federal courts. Three branches of government. And at this time, our Congress, our senators, our House of Representatives, you have an obligation, you have a responsibility. 3 days prior to this insurrection that took place, January the 6th, January the 3rd, which was on a Sunday, I saw all the House representatives and senators walk in pairs of twos, carrying your Bibles. You raised your right hand. You promised to give an oath to that you would protect our Constitution against foreign and domestic. Only in this instant, it wasn't foreign entities. It was at the incitement of the sitting 45th president, who must be removed from office. There is blood on Trump's hands, and to everyone that does not take a stand and vote to impeach and remove this person, this criminal, the blood will also be on your hands. Many have asked, what will you tell your children? What will you tell your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren? Well, this is what it seems to me that the Republicans, these hypocrisies, these hypocrites, will tell their children what they have taught them all along from what their parents, their grandparents, and their great-grandparents obviously taught them. You be a racist person. You support white supremacy. You be against people of color. You stand for what is wrong, not what is right. You stand for racism and bigotry and Confederacy. I see people that was at that insurrection this past Wednesday, a week ago today, it was stated that some of them had their kids with them. Kids to see this type of horrific things that took place. It was said that pastors was there. And we learned that it was a man that was a swimmer, a previous Olympic winner. He was identified by his USA. He wore the jacket. How careless, how thoughtless, how just so self-entitled and no concern that you wore the jacket of the United States of America that you represented when you was in the Olympics to an insurrection. You are seen pointing out all of these things. And Republican Congress is just continuing to turn a blind eye. They want to act as if it didn't happen, but it happened. It was played out in real time. More and more of the discuss, the horrificness of it is being brought to the forefront. Again, 5 people died. You always talk about the men in blue. A police officer died, but many of them were on it, was in, just like Trump and many Republicans, they were for it. They was for this. They were for the domestic terrors that took place on our nation's capital. It's about accountability. The Republicans is a party of racism. It's been said that 40% of Republicans still will want Trump to run in 2024. Why would you want someone that incited a insurrection, 5 people died, to have another term to run for president? Because you carry the same common denominator. you're racist. You only care about keeping power for yourselves. Because Trump emboldened racism at the top. He had no problem being a racist. And these Republicans that has that in their hearts, that racism, that hate, that's so embedded in their heart, that they will stand with Trump. Even Mitt Romney had said before this incident of the insurrection that took place, he was saying that many of the contenders for 2024 are trying to pattern after Trump. Really? You want to mimic the most racist person, or one of the most racist person, or the most racist president that has ever been? That tells me who you are. I know who Donald J. Trump is. He's never tried to conceal who he is. But you got people that serve in our United States Congress that are openly wants to embolden their racism. You got people saying, well, this is not America. It's America. This country was founded on keeping people of color down, not to have roles. Try to forever let us live beneath, berate us. You don't want to be a country where all people are truly created and equally have the same rights. You don't even want blacks to vote. Look at how so many, when this past election, polling places was closed in predominant black neighborhoods. And who carried this president race? Black people. And in the state of Georgia, where you just had the first black African American man, the pastor Raphael Warnock, the one against Kelly Loeffler, the first black African American for the state of Georgia to become a United States senator. And then John Ossoff also won, but they were carried by black voters. And you all hate that. You want us to be inferior to you. We are not our ancestors. We won't stand for being mistreated unfairly. If we have earned it, we want that just like you. And we have just as much credibility, education, and the expertise that can do any job. But you don't want us to have that. You want us to be forever inferior to you. It was said that Jenny Thomas, who is the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, it was said that she was all on social media, Facebook, giving her praise to these domestic terrorists. It also been said that she busts in 80 people. I don't know if that's fact, but it's been put out in the atmosphere. What type of people are you really? And it's also been speculated that maybe even the congressmen and women have been in on this insurrection. Where did those people stay? It was said that they had been given a tour like a day before. A lot of things is coming out. Trump is a danger and he must be held accountable. You don't get to just walk away from the blood of 5 people on your hands. A breach of our nation's capital. You don't get to just walk away from it. Do a bank robber, if captured, or you know who that bank robber is, get to just go free without being held responsible for the crime he did? The president is no different. No one is above the law. And this is a stain that can never and will never be removed. I don't care how you want to pretend that it didn't happen, how you wanted to wash it away, how you wanted to just ignore willfully. That's what you're doing Republican, you are willfully being accomplice to Trump. And you know this. Just like you knew he was lying, that there was never a rigged election. You knew from day one that Joe Biden won fairly, but you played along. And you continue to play along with this man. All because you carry the same common denominator, racism. You are all cut from the same cloth. Hate is in your heart. Hate is in your heart. Republicans willfully overlooking the cause, the purpose, and you want to give me, we want a smooth transition. None of you stood up when he formally gave the conspiracy. Why you didn't stand up and say, well, Mr. President, we need to have a smooth transition. Joe Biden won. You didn't do that. He still haven't denounced the terrorist act that took place. It's been said that in all 50 states that these same terrorists are planning to do it again next Wednesday in regards to the inauguration. Still trying to abet Trump. They've had to beef up security in all 50 states at federal places, the nation's capitals, state capitals, and even more in D.C. because of this incitement that Trump led, orchestrated, carried out. Like Trump, you Republican, you take no responsibility. You take no accountability. You're showing us every day how horrible, despicable men and women that you really are. And this is what you're teaching your children. This is what you're teaching your grandchildren. It all just continues from generation to generation of being racist people to being hypocrites. And many of you want to claim to be Christians. Did you not feel what happened last Wednesday when many of you were hiding on the floor, not knowing if you will live or die, if you will get to see your family members again, and you still want to come out as Kevin McCarthy did? They said he called Trump and was trying to get Trump to denounce it, to have the terrorists to stand down. But he still came out on the floor after all of that had taken place and voted to overturn the will of the American people. And you want to use us as hostage, the American people. The American people is tired of what we have experienced the last 4 years. All the lies, all the disrespect, all the criminal acts, all the racism, and most important, the insurrection, the sedition that took place at our nation's capital. Donald Trump got to be held accountable, and you have an obligation to us. You took an oath to serve and protect the Constitution. When you all stood January the 3rd, 2021, were you really giving your oath to Donald J. Trump, or were you giving it to the United States Constitution? Please clarify. Because your action seems to be you giving it to Trump. Because the man caused 5 people's lives to be gone. Again, a breach on the nation's capital, an insurrection. Trump has never tried to have unity. Ever since he's been in office, he's done everything to resist. I want to play a clip. His tone still has not changed. Let me play this clip that he did just yesterday. Because yesterday was his first time being publicly out and actually speaking with reporters and things of this perspective. Okay. This is what he said. This is what Trump said. The 25th Amendment is of zero risk to me. but will come back to haunt Joe Biden in the Biden administration. As saying goes, be careful what you ask for. Remember, Trump is associating himself with the Alamo today. So, again, he got that same tone, the same written he's had for the past 4 years. He's a person that promotes violence. He incites violence. Just listen to him.
In violence or... Before we begin, I'd like to say that free speech is under assault like never before. The 25th Amendment is of zero risk to me, but will come back to haunt Joe Biden and the Biden administration. As the expression goes, be careful what you wish for. And now I'd like to briefly address the events of last week. Millions of our citizens want...
Be careful what you ask for. That's what he said. The man still takes no accountability. And you all want to talk about healing. How can you heal from a problem truly if you don't, one, deal with the problem, two, if you don't find the adequate resolution to the problem? We know this happened. We know that there was an insurrection that took place January the 6th, 2021 at our nation's capital in D.C. We know it was incited by Trump. We know 5 people passed away, died, lost their lives. So how can there be unity when you all continue to willfully, and I want to stress the word, you are willfully turning a blind eye, a deaf ear, once more to Trump? Do he have that much control over you? This truly has turned out to be, instead of a Republican Party, you have become the Trump cult. And many of you are aspiring for political careers. Some of you wanted to expand your political career. You too want maybe to run for president for the next term, 2024. And your aspiration is that of Trump, who has done nothing but embolden racism. A man that incited violence at our nation's capital. The man that said there was fine people on both sides when the horrific events that took place in Charlottesville. The man that stood on national TV when he did the first debate that told the Proud Boys, a white supremacist group, to stand back, stand by. That's when all of this began to start to really play out, when he said stand back, stand by to white supremacists. The very next day they said, Mr. President, we're standing back, standing by. And on January the 6th, 2021, they showed up at the nation's capital. And it's being reported that they're planning to do it in all 50 states, and even again at D.C., because they're white supremacists. They've been told to incite violence to the next administration. They're carrying out the will of what Donald J. Trump wants: violence. And you all are willfully, you knowing what you're doing. It's not that you don't know. You know, but you just want everybody else to just don't say anything about it. Not a one of you had a complaint when you did your sham rush for Amy Coney Barrett, but now you want to say because it's a week away, we can't do an impeachment. No one saw this as a surprise. Because like I said, we're talking about Trump, and he's known for who he is: an evil, criminal man that's heartless and that will do whatever it takes that benefits him. So this wasn't a surprise. But the magnitude of it all and the actuality that it happened, that the actuality that a insurrection took place, No one had planned to do an impeachment, but after what took place, accountability has to be done. There's a responsibility. You don't get to walk away from an insurrection. You don't get to walk away from the fact that 5 people lost their lives. You don't get to walk away that there's blood on the hands of America that was incited by the president. It's pure BS and hypocrisy. That's where you are. You just continue to ignite that flame of BS and hypocrisy. Susan Collins, when Trump was impeached the first time, she said, well, I think he learned his lesson. Many people have been bringing that back into remembrance. But Susan, he did not learn his lesson. That's why you have a responsibility to remove this man from office. The only way that he might learn a lesson is if you all stand up, if the men would get a spine, get a backbone, and do the right thing. The women are normally in submission, so if the man stand up and exercise the backbone and exercise that, yes, I do have a spine, you might have these submissive women, white women, that would do the right thing as well, which would be to impeach, convict, remove Donald J. Trump. Will you all be on the right side of history, or will you continue this side of history that is known where it's about whites, white supremacists? It's about racism. It's about willfully knowing right from wrong, but choosing to do wrong, although you took an oath. Does the oath truly not mean anything? Some of you have been in Congress so long till you just done got so accustomed and so complicit to your own agenda, power, greed, money, that you don't wash the oath right out the door. And it was just 3 days before this insurrection took place that you stood with your right hand raised while you carried your Bibles. The Holy Bible, God's Word. Have you all actually read the Constitution? Do you know that you are actually supposed to do what you said you would do? To defend and protect at all costs against foreign and domestic? The United States Constitution? Our republic, our democracy? Are you just so now caught up on you going to do whatever Donald J. Trump wants because he's emboldened you to be brave in your racism? Where do you really stand? History is being counted every day. It's being notated in the history book every day. And as I said when I started this conversation today, the House representative was on the floor, many of them speaking in favor of impeachment and those that opposed. And at some point within this day, they may even be doing it now. I'm not sure. You will have to give your vote. Will you do the right thing? Yes, January the 20th, 2021 will be the ending of the Trump-Pence administration. But Trump did something to American history on January the 6th, 2021 that can never be erased. It would never be forgotten. And no matter how you choose to turn a blind eye, to willfully overlook, to willfully diminish what he did, the accountability that he has to give in account of, the role that he played, the incitement that he did, will you stand up and be real American patriots? And with that being said, will you vote to do the right thing, to vote to impeach, convict, but most importantly, remove Donald J. Trump? I hope you be on the right side of history. I am LaMarsha Lewis. Let's talk.